Hello everybody, I'm Manaswini and today I'm going to be talking about Foresight, our system for handling spatiotemporal bandwidth variations during streaming on mobile phones. My fellow student Anirudh Sarma is the other contributor to the project and we were guided by Professors Ashutosh Tekne and Kishore Ramachandran. We've all experienced large variations in mobile data bandwidth as we travel from one location to another and sometimes even when we move to a different part of our own house. We have plotted the Ookla speed test data for various locations within New York City and within Atlanta to illustrate the variations in mobile data availability within a city. As we can see, there are many regions with spotty bandwidth sitting right next to areas with good bandwidth. Now, what happens when a user travels between these spotty bandwidth locations and the good bandwidth locations, specifically when they're performing bandwidth intensive operations like video streaming? As we travel, we experience many of these fluctuations in bandwidth. We might go through a tunnel where there is limited cellular coverage, sit in a traffic jam where the density of cars makes it difficult to obtain reasonable bandwidth, or might even travel through a mountainous terrain where there is on and off connectivity. And what does that mean for a YouTube video? I'm sure all of us have experienced these video stalls which manifest as buffering screens quite frequently when we are on the move. The question that we ask now is, can we provide high quality, stall-free video despite intermittent connectivity? Of course, one solution would be to eliminate any sort of video stalls by downloading the whole video ahead of time. Problem solved, right? Well, not exactly. What if the user changes their mind about what video they want to watch? It would be a waste of resources if everything was downloaded ahead of time. Also, the video player could have only limited buffer space on the mobile device, in which case we cannot download the entire video. Other applications running in the background would pay the penalty for a video that the user did not even watch, but is hogging all of the bandwidth. So we'll have to play nice. In summary, we cannot afford to download the whole video. But can we download a part of the video? Yes, we can. In fact, most video players already do this to create a cushion for small changes in bandwidth while being mindful of the limited buffer space on the user device. If we consider a scenario where the bandwidth is constant, the video player downloads videos in small segments from the CDN server. So now, what happens when the bandwidth changes? Adaptive bitrate algorithms adjust the bitrate of the video in response to the observed download speed. Let's consider the blue line to currently indicate good bandwidth. The video player fetches the segment at the highest bitrate from the CDN server. Now, as the user moves, the bandwidth improves. So the video player just keeps up the same bitrate for the video. But what happens when the bitrate falls? No problem. The video player just adjusts the bitrate to a lower value that is more in tune with the experienced bandwidth, though it compromises on the viewing quality. And now when the bandwidth falls further, the video player reduces the bitrate even further. This constantly changing video quality results in poor user experience. What the user would like to see is a consistent video quality. But what they do see are these fluctuating bitrates because of bandwidth variations. So can we improve the user's quality of experience? Well, we could try a few things. We could use past bandwidth estimates for the user's route to predict the future. This approach has in fact been used inside video players in previous implementations. However, it is done in a way that exposes the user's location to the player. Exposing user's location to a video player has significant privacy implications. Every application that needs to estimate future bandwidth would need location permission. Instead, we ask the question, can we provide bandwidth estimation as a service to all mobile applications? The answer is yes. And in the rest of the presentation, we describe the solution that we have developed that we call Foresight. In a nutshell, our solution has two components. We have a bandwidth service that runs on the cloud server, which indexes spatiotemporal bandwidth information. We use Crust, which is a lightweight tool for bandwidth measurement, to upload estimates to the cloud server, which then indexes it in a spatiotemporal database and exposes an API that can be queried in order to find out the bandwidth at a given location. We'll go over Crust when we talk about related work later in the presentation. Next, we have a bandwidth manager that on the user's device that does a few things. It is responsible for querying the bandwidth service that runs on the cloud, and it is then responsible for creating a schedule with these received estimates and notifying the applications about the schedule that it just created as a function of time rather than a function of location. In order to perform this transformation, it estimates the user's travel speed using the route information that it already has. We'll go over some of the subparts indicated in bold during the presentation. Please refer to a paper for more details. Now let's look at Foresight's architecture and how all of the components fit in together. First, the user informs the bandwidth manager of their travel route. The bandwidth manager then queries the cloud server using the user-provided route in order to get bandwidth estimates. Simultaneously, applications that need bandwidth information register their bandwidth requirements and a callback function with the bandwidth manager to receive bandwidth estimates. In the meantime, the bandwidth manager would have received the bandwidth estimates from the cloud server. How does the cloud server get this information in the first place, the location bandwidth information? There is a lightweight bandwidth measurement application that runs on the user device which periodically uploads location bandwidth estimates to the cloud server. The cloud server then indexes all of this information, and when a query for bandwidth at a particular location arrives, it just does a lookup based on the location. The bandwidth manager, once it receives the estimates from the cloud bandwidth service running on the cloud, then invokes the scheduler to allocate bandwidth between multiple applications and then notifies each registered application with the scheduled bandwidth in the near future. Note that the applications don't need the user's location, they just need to know how much bandwidth they'll have in the near future. So the bandwidth manager just transforms the location bandwidth estimates into time bandwidth estimates using the user's speed of travel speed. Now that we have a high-level picture of the system, let's look at the bandwidth manager in a little more detail. We implemented the bandwidth manager as an Android service, and all of its interfaces were defined in AIDL, which is Android's interface definition language. The bandwidth manager specifies two interfaces: the register app interface, by which applications can register a callback, which the bandwidth manager then calls whenever it has fresh set of estimates from the cloud service. And each application also specifies the bandwidth requirements which the manager will try to honor. What happens when the bandwidth estimates change over time? The premise of our paper is that there are spatiotemporal variations in bandwidth. Therefore, the bandwidth manager should be able to handle changes to the estimates that are provided by the cloud server. In order to do so, the bandwidth manager periodically refreshes its schedule by querying the cloud server, and the refresh periodicity is called an epoch. It then updates the applications with a new schedule via the on-bandwidth schedule interface. Finally, note that applications don't need the user's location. They just need to know how much bandwidth they will have in the future. So the bandwidth manager transforms the location bandwidth estimates into time bandwidth estimates by estimating the user's travel speed. This preserves the user's privacy for protecting their location information and also avoids the need for the user to enable location permissions individually for multiple applications that just need to know what the future bandwidth looks like. In order to put Foresight to use, we took ExoPlayer, which is an open source video player, and added hooks to it that will enable ExoPlayer to use the bandwidth information exposed by Foresight. ExoPlayer's default reaction to bandwidth changes is to change the bitrate of the video. Through Foresight, we can avoid bitrate changes by buffering enough content ahead of time. ExoPlayer classes are extensible, so we added hooks to directly update the buffer length on the video player instead of measuring the download speed and then updating the bitrate in order to adjust the buffer length. Now, ExoPlayer can use the bandwidth estimates from the bandwidth manager once the callback for handling bandwidth changes is implemented. This callback was implemented in about 230 lines of code, which is not too many lines of change for an application. Now let's look at some evaluations. In this slide, we contrast the behavior of the adaptive bitrate algorithm used in ExoPlayer by default against the Foresight-enabled Exoplayer. The light blue line shows the variation of buffer length over time in the default Exoplayer. As the bandwidth falls, which is indicated by the dotted line, the Exoplayer first tries to reduce the bitrate and eventually stalls because it is no longer able to buffer any more video. On the other hand, the Foresight-enabled Exoplayer, which is the dark blue line, uses future bandwidth estimates to buffer more video ahead of time in anticipation of the stall. Thus, it altogether avoids the stall and also avoids the bitrate switches which are associated with dealing with the stall itself. In this slide, we see the importance of choosing the right epoch size for querying the cloud service for fresh bandwidth estimates. A smaller epoch size is more accurate. This is indicated by the light blue line. However, it would also require more trips to the cloud server, thus increasing the overhead for obtaining bandwidth estimates. We found that an adaptive strategy of querying the cloud server when the changes to the bandwidth estimates were observed to adjust the epoch to be the best strategy since it does not waste resources while still maintaining accuracy. We have more results reported in the paper. Earlier, we briefly touched upon bandwidth estimation using CRUST for uploading location bandwidth measurements to the cloud server. Let's look at some related work in a little more detail. Now, we need to estimate the bandwidth and in order to provide it as a service. And we could have this estimation either within the application, within an application, or it could also reside independently. Prior work such as those of Reeser and GTube have the bandwidth estimation and location bandwidth and spatiotemporal bandwidth variation logic built into the video player. The bandwidth estimation drives the bitrates for the video downloads. However, this has two important side effects. Location information is shared with the player, compromising the user's privacy. And if a different player were to similarly estimate bandwidth, the same estimation logic would be repeated in the new application, leading to duplication of such facility in each application. So we need bandwidth estimation to be a separate module in itself. We need it to be also lightweight and fast. We explore three different techniques: speed test by Ookla, packet pairs and packet trains, and CRUST. For our use case, we found CRUST to be the best suited for mobile data network since it does not hog the user's bandwidth but still provides accurate estimates. More information can be found in our paper. In summary, we saw how bandwidth estimation can be provided as a service on Android devices, and we saw how to do so in a manner which does not involve exposing the user's location. And finally, we also saw how to put such a system to practical use by integrating it with a production quality open source video player. Thank you for listening, and we refer you to our paper for more details.